Okay, this is chapter 7.4, the other trigonometric functions. We are on page 1, and we are going to pull these values right off of the unit circle. So if you take a look at the box that I've highlighted in green, when we draw angles, we have a place or a point where the terminal side of that angle intersects our unit circle, and that is where our x and y values are coming from. And I just realized up here it says cosine theta equals y. That should be an x. To the right of it, it says the x value, but that one got by. Okay, so right off of the unit circle, a sine of 7 pi over 6. 7 pi over 6 is in quadrant 3, and the sine value is negative 1/2. B, sine of 60 degrees. 60 degrees is in quadrant 1. Keeping in mind that our sine value is always the y value, we get square root of 3 over 2. C, cosine of 2 pi. That is going to be once around the circle, so the exact same thing as cosine 0, they're coterminal, and we get 1. D, cosine negative 390, so that's more than 360 degrees. This is going to be coterminal with negative 30 degrees. Or if we go all the way to the positive, we got positive 330 degrees. That is in the fourth quadrant, and the cosine of 330 degrees is square root of 3 over 2. Secant, we want to remember that is 1 over cosine. So the cosine at pi over 6 is square root of 3 over 2. We've done this a lot. We are going to invert and rationalize that denominator. We get 2 square roots of 3 over 3, and that's E. F, the secant of 2 pi. That means I want 1 over the cosine of 2 pi. Secant is the reciprocal of cosine. We have cosine from above. That's 1 over 1. So this is 1. Cosecant of 240 is 1 over the sine of 240. And I realize that the table above just uses x's and y's. You can pull those values right out of the unit circle. I am relating these back to the trig functions, the reciprocal functions, just to give you a different way to look at it. So 240 is in the third quadrant. That means the sine at 240 is going to be negative. That's a negative square root of 3 over 2. And so we get negative 2 square roots of 3 all over 3. Cosecant is 1 over sine. Negative 270 is the same as 90 degrees. The sine at 90 is 1. We get 1 over 1. This one's 1. Tangent of pi over 2. Tangent is our y over x at pi over 2. Or sine of pi over 2 over cosine of pi over 2 means the exact same thing. We get 1 over 0, which is undefined. Tangent of pi over 6, again, y over x, or the sine of pi over 6, all over the cosine of pi over 6. Sine at pi over 6 is 1/2. Cosine of pi over 6 is square root of 3 over 2. I get 1 over the square root of 3, and then when we rationalize that denominator, we get square root of 3 over square root of 3. So first off, we got a couple things to work with here. I need something that Negative 17 pi over 6 is coterminal with. So I can add 2 pi, that's 12 pi over 6. I get this is coterminal with negative 5 pi over 6. I'd like to have that as a positive since that is how my unit circle is written. Coterminal is cotangent is x over y. So that's going to be the cosine of 7 pi over 6 all over the sine of 7 pi over 6. Negative square root of 3 over 2 all over negative 1/2. We get positive square root of 3. Cotangent at negative pi, that's x over y, or cosine of negative pi over the sine of negative pi. Cosine at negative pi is negative 1. Sine is 0. So this is also undefined. And that's it for page 1.